My name is Yubi Nikola. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm an architect and artist by trade. I grew up in Fresno, California, back in the 90s. It was a small little farm area. Now it's kind of like a big metropolis. It was not as bad as it was now. When I grew up in a neighborhood where all my friends were, underprivileged like we were. Just always surrounded by like dealers, I guess. And they all flash their shoes and they flash their guns. And that's why I'm obsessed with shoes and guns. And that's about it. My dream when I was a kid was always to be an architect. Unfortunately, after I did go to architecture school and finish that and worked as an architect, I did not like it. It was less creative than I thought it would be. So I kind of diverged off and did my own thing. I was more of like outdoor, I want to work outside. I did contracting. I would not just be behind the desk the whole time. I would do building and I would go weld and I would do framing and I would do all that other stuff, but still it was kind of, I had to deal with a bunch of other people, and unfortunately in life you have to deal with people that you don't always want to deal with. And so I kind of took the chance and stepped outside of that and did my own thing, and luckily it worked out. My aha moment for me was when I got engaged, and my fiance, which is now my wife, just told me to stop doing what I'm doing, just do what I like. And instantly I just felt like pressure and relief was just like taken off my back. And I just started doing the stuff that I like. I just started making clothes, I started making art and furniture, and then it slowly transitioned into making sculpture, and that's what I do now. So how I came up with this was, growing up, we weren't allowed to go outside and play with other kids. My parents were really strict, and so there was 4 of us, 2 older sisters and a younger brother, so all I had was cartoons. The environment that I grew up was kind of like always tense. I liked going out and I liked doing that stuff, but our parents never let us, so I just started making sculptures and making art, and my parents would go and take me to Home Depot and buy whatever you want just so I don't have to go out and play with the neighborhood kids, unfortunately. So this is how I started making that stuff. I was always into the mechanics of guns. I was not necessarily pro-gun, but I wasn't anti-gun. I grew up around guns and I grew up around cartoons. So I kind of like merged the 2 things that I like together. I think more so I like the fact that they're sculptures, and I don't necessarily care about the fact that they are dangerous, because I don't think they're necessarily dangerous, but I like the sculpture aspect of weapons and different machinery. These are made out of resin. The 3D model them in a software called Rhino and Maya. And after I do the drawings and I make the 3D models, then I take them to my 3D printer and I print them out. And I make molds, and then I cast those molds out of resin. And then each one takes a while to make and paint. So almost every single one is kind of unique, because I'm kind of a small shop, so it's kind of hard for me to make sure that everything comes out the same. So that's why they're all kind of original. Even there's differences in the actual paint theme between most of them, because it's just sometimes that's just how it works out. So for example, this one's 3 pieces, this one's 2 pieces, this is 1 piece, 2 pieces. So I do kind of glue them, sand them, clean them up. They take a while, they take like a week to do. It's fun, and as long as I'm making money, I'm okay with it. I was working as an architect and designer. I started doing creative events. So I would do events with like Adidas, events with other companies, brands, like larger scale brands. I did a event with TDE. After I did that stuff, the pandemic kind of hit. So kind of slowed all the business down, slowed down shows, slowed down pop-up shops, slowed down my business came to a complete halt. And I was always doing stuff like this on the side. And so she was just like, why don't you just start posting and selling? I'm like, no one's gonna buy this stuff, It's just for me. I'm only making it for me. She's like, the fact that you're making it for yourself, I can guarantee you people are gonna like it, because the stuff that you like, most people like. I was like, okay, I started posting. Within the first week of posting, I actually sold like 3 or 4 pieces. So just snowballed from there. And someone would tell their friend, another person would tell their friend, and eventually got into a few big name hands, and that's how it got started. I started my Instagram like after COVID. And then I started my website after COVID. So it's only been like, like a year and a quarter, something like that, where I've been selling. It's not that I didn't like the day job. I didn't like some of the aspects of the day job. I hate being told that you can't do something. That just really bothers me. Case in point, most people think you can't make things like this. Like when I approach like a manufacturer to help me manufacture this, you can't do it. It's just not gonna happen. I'm like, I made it. I'm in like a 400 square foot garage, so why can't it work? So that's why I kind of just stepped out on my own and just started doing my own thing. And once COVID hit, it kind of like fucked up the business completely. I just picked that up and just said, I need to make money somehow, right? So I just started selling my own pieces. I did not start off with this stuff. This stuff was not the pieces I started off. I started off with wall sculptures. It's more so those wall sculptures are kind of, they take me back to when I was a kid. I would always like play in the sand and play in the dirt. And you know, when you're a kid, you make mud pies and you make different, like you're playing in the dirt, sandbox. And that's, like I said, all I was allowed to do was play in our backyard. So I'd mix paint with sand and paint with concrete and make different things. And that's why when you see those sculptures, they do look like they're sand. Most of them are not sand. They're like different types of materials, kind of proprietary, but also it does tie back to the fact that when I was a contractor, the whole field would be covered in dirt and sand, and you would see all these footsteps, you would see like hammers dropped, and you would kind of see that silhouette of what was there, and it's not there anymore, and that always intrigued me. The actual imprint that they did, no pun intended, is still there. That's usually the last thing that people would notice, is like the sole of a shoe or something that falls on the floor, how it looks. But I was always interested in that. I like making people think that what they're seeing is not real until they actually touch it, you know? So when you see these things revolve, it doesn't make any sense. Like when it's like this, it's like, it's a weird shape. That's kind of cool. But when you see it like this, it's like, oh shit, that's, you know, some domestic violence going on.
Yeah.
Which was on TV, and people forget that this stuff was all on TV, you know? The way I sell it is, like I said, I did kind of get lucky with a few people that would repost my stuff, and they did it by themselves, I guess. You know, they just found it intriguing and they wanted to repost my things, and they would repost it for me, and I would just get followers like that. I tried Instagram promotions. It works, but you know, they have like an algorithm that they have to follow, and I understand, you know, they don't want to promote what they might perceive as a gun. When it's not a gun, it's actually talking against gun violence. Like when I designed this piece, Glock Walk, this is the first piece that I actually designed. I didn't make it first, but this is the first piece that I actually designed. And it's supposed to be like everyone that holds a gun, behind that gun is a child, and in front of that gun is a child. So it kind of like, it's supposed to make you think a little bit before you use that gun. You know, like everybody behind and in front of has someone that loves them and, you know, wants them to be around, so just be safe. That's kind of the message behind it, but then most people don't know that. This is the ballerina, and it's like a fine balance between 1 second, you pull that pin and it's gone. There is kind of beauty in destruction, I guess. This is kind of a pineapple grenade back from like the early 40s, I guess, which I do like that shape. I don't know, it's just a cool shape. And then it's kind of synonymous with what you think of a grenade. This is what you think, right? That's not what you think when you think of a grenade. Where I'm at with the journey of my dream is, it's like an ongoing dream. So it constantly develops, it constantly changes. I used to want things that I don't really care about anymore. I never thought that I would want the stuff that I am working towards now. So it's constantly evolving, constantly moving forward, but it always is me being able to do what I want to do and support my family and myself with that, and show the world beautiful objects. I mean, there's a lot of challenging moments. Challenging moments are, you gotta feed yourself. And not being able to feed yourself, not being able to feed your kid, your wife, your family, that's a challenging moment, right? Luckily, I have someone that I can rely on, and she helps me out, and she's the one that pushes me to do that stuff. The challenging moments are basically in my head, but they're there, you know? And so that's what keeps you pushing, is those challenging moments. If it wasn't for those challenging moments, you wouldn't be able to create, you know, the stuff that you create. Like, at least if it wasn't for my challenging moments, I wouldn't have had anything in front of you, like the stuff that I have today, at all. There's a struggle every day. The biggest accomplishment that I'm proud of is the fact that I'm like self-sustaining, I guess, you know? Not to sound corny, but to come from where I came from, where not having the ability to do anything and now being able to do and speak to most people that I never thought I'd be able to speak to, it's pretty cool. I'll never feel like I've accomplished my dream, unfortunately, but it gets better every day. It gets closer and closer to that. But as soon as you feel like you've accomplished your dream, what's the point of even moving on, moving forward, right? You should always dream, you should always push forward, you should always have a goal. Whether it be something stupid, whether it be like something small or negligible, to you, it's your mountain. To someone else, it's their little anthill, you know? But that's life. You should always have a dream. My definition of success is being happy with myself. What makes me happy, genuinely happy, is seeing other people, making other people happy. Let's just say that, with those things that I do. I don't know how else I would phrase that. Like, this really does make people happy. Art really does, you know, make people happy. Sometimes it changes people's lives for like really, in a really positive way. And that's beautiful, you know, that's the whole point of it. If you don't have a support system, you can always make that support system. You can find a support system. There's always like-minded people out there. And through apps like Dreamer, I'm sure you can connect with people that also have the same dream that you have, or even same vision that you have for yourself and for others. It's very important. And if you don't have, you know, a good support system, and you're around what you perceive as toxic people, when someone tells you to reevaluate yourself, you shouldn't reevaluate yourself. If you feel like they're toxic, step away and just don't hang out with them. It's not that hard. You don't have to have friends to be happy in this world. I have friends because I want to break from my own mind. Like even right now, I'm thinking of 10 different things, right? And I have friends to like take me away from that. And like I said, most of my friends are not into the stuff I do whatsoever. They don't even know anything about it. And I feel like that's also important too. So it's a break, because if you're constantly around people that are like you, then they're gonna influence you in the right way or bad way, it doesn't matter. And it's kind of dissolve your own real like art, I guess. A piece of advice I'd give an aspiring artist, it would be do you. Don't isolate yourself, show your stuff, but the audience will come. I'm looking forward to making bigger and bigger things. Like I said, I'm looking forward to doing big installations, mind-blowing and mind-bending installations. So you can find me or more of my work on Instagram at Yubi Nikola, or on my website, yubinikola.com. My name is Yubi Nikola, and you just watched my Behind the Dream.